difference for me to my friend Gregg. When I first sat down to write about my friend Gregg, I felt an enormous amount of pressure and fear. How in the world would I ever be able to sum up and express how I feel about men like Gregg? As the saying goes, this truly is a man among men. The calm during calamity, the rock that we all held onto during the storm. I felt this overwhelming need to make sure that I conveyed to all of you just how important he was to me. And during this extremely difficult past week, I instinctively kept reaching for my phone to call Gregg, because that's who I call at times like this. I wanted to hear his voice tell me just one more time, as he had in the past when he's got rough, to just press through it, get it done. I finally came to the simple conclusion that it was likely that none of us here today could completely express how important Gregg was to us. He was so very special to all of us in his own unique way, and all I can really do is share with you a few things about the man who was my closest friend in the world. I always felt that it was unlikely that Gregg and I became such good friends. When we first met in high school, and Gregg was very popular, a star athlete, homecoming king, and well-known and liked by every clique in high school. He was everything I wasn't. And I really want to impress upon you that last point. Not only was Gregg well-liked by every clique in high school, he was accepted as one of their own. He had a way about him that made you recognize immediately that there was something in him that related to you. Whatever group you ran with back then, Gregg had a rare and special quality of identifying with you. And that quality remained true today. I know that all of us here today have so many of our own personal reasons why we love and care for Gregg so much. But I believe all of us share one common reflection. Gregg made you feel special. When he sat down to speak with you, whether it was for the first time you were meeting him, or if you'd known him all your life, Gregg had a real interest in who you were, what you did, and what you were saying. And this way about him was not something he did to be polite or make you feel comfortable. Gregg was genuinely and enthusiastically engaged in you. It was his curious nature about him. He always wanted to know why, how, and what about everything. Gregg and I found each other on about a weekly basis, and our conversations were rarely of the basic chit-chat, because he always wanted to know more. And often those conversations would end on some deep, profound statement he would make about whatever we were talking about. He was curious. He loved great food, but more so, he loved cooking that great food. There are so many nights that would begin in his kitchen cooking food, drinking wine that would eventually end up in his backyard at the end of the night, drinking some single malt scotch, smoking a cigar, or a gar, as he called it. In some deep conversation in what Gregg would describe as solid. I can hear him say in that voice that I always thought sounded like a cross between a surfer / someone from the South / Zen Buddhist. Hey, let's go out back and have a bar, solve the world's problems. And then he'd let out that great big laugh. Many of us know that Gregg, in his very short 47 years, lived as full and complete as a man who might have lived several lifetimes. As Tony Dennis commented the other night, Gregg lived life so fully that it's as if he would take life itself in his hands at the end of the day and bring it out like a rag. It's true. He excelled in his education and athletics, fought in the war, saw half the world, loved jazz music, and had an interest in almost any subject. But when I think of Gregg at his happiest moments, it's always with his beautiful wife, Deanna, and his wonderful children, Chase and Valencia, my godson. He loved to be with his family more than anything else in the world. He would never have chosen to leave them, ever. Although Gregg did have a ferocious love for life and all the beautiful and wonderful things it had to offer, there was another side of him that viewed life as a challenge. And although he was like anyone else, and that he struggled with the hard moments in life, there was a side of him that in a way almost welcomed those struggles. He viewed those difficulties as a challenge to his self-worth. In a way, it was as if he dared life to try and break him down. He did not like to acquiesce, as he used to say. I'm not one to acquiesce. I don't capitulate. And to this point, I'd like to pass along one last story about Gregg that I feel really defines how he felt about the challenges and struggles of life. Kind of how like all of us are feeling right now. And how he responded in these moments. Many years ago, a very excited Gregg called me to tell me about this article that he had read in Vanity Fair magazine about this actor, Pierce Brosnan, of all people. And I didn't know that Gregg was or wasn't necessarily a fan of Pierce Brosnan, but Gregg being Gregg, he read the article because Pierce Brosnan is Irish. And Gregg thought that was cool because he's Irish too. Little fellow Irish. And in that interview, there was this response that Pierce had about the struggles of life when things got tough. And Gregg was so moved by what he had said that he called me the next day and raved about this article and how I needed to read it and what Pierce Brosnan had said and how he wanted me to remember it and how he had already memorized it. And had gone so far, he printed it and framed it. And he told me that he printed a copy for me too and told me I needed to frame it, which I did. And many times over the years, from that day to not very long ago, he would still bring up that quote. And if I could somehow pick up the phone and call Gregg right now and tell him how sad I am that he's gone and how I don't know all we know without him, there is not one doubt in my mind that he would remind me of this quote and he would recite it. And I'd like to pass this on from him to all of you and hope that you will find some comfort in it as I have. And then there comes a revelation that you must not fight it, that you must live in that moment and not panic. You must live empty and gutted and have the confidence that the breeze of life will come back in and save you. I love you, Gregg. I miss you. I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. You know, as I said, those memories help us a lot. Help us to hold on, remember what came of Gregg. Sometimes let go and move on. The second thing that helped us is his death. Surprising to say that, but I think the family was blessed that he was with them. He was with them when he died. They were there to try to assist him as best they could. He could have died lonely, alone,